僕ですか?
Tontagosa. This is Kody NOKOLO, and today I'm talking with Andrew and Brian Allanson, the creators of one of the most recently released Motherlike indies, Y2K, a postmodern RPG. So how have both of you been, and how's development on the Y2K 1.5 update going?
I think we've been pretty good.
Yeah, I've been good.
Development's going well. We're nearing the end. We're pleased with it so far, and I think the beta testers are pretty pleased with it, so things look bright.
Awesome. I haven't actually gotten to play Y2K yet. I've actually been waiting for this update to play it, so I'm excited too, because once it comes out, I'm gonna play the whole game too.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's worth waiting for the update at this point.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I'm super excited. So to get started with all the questions that I have, question 1, where did you first discover the Mother series, and how did you feel during your first experiences with it?
I think we discovered it through Super Smash Brothers, because Ness was a character, and we were really curious what his game was, and then I think like everyone, we found it through emulation. We didn't have a Super Nintendo. We were a little we were born a little bit late to have a Super Nintendo.
Same here.
And I remember, I think my first experience was watching Brian play through the game. I think I watched Brian play through it before I played through it.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
And that would have been Earthbound.
Yeah, same thing. Got started with Smash Bros. So yeah, I know how
Smash
that
Bros
is.
is a great gateway drug for getting into Mothers.
Yeah, that's what I've heard from most people, at least most younger people, is they've got into it through Smash Bros. Nowadays. This is probably going to be a pretty straightforward answer since you started with Earthbound. Seems like most people's first Mother game is their favorite, is what I've found, so maybe you might prove me wrong, but what were your favorite games in the series and why?
I think Mother 3 is the best one.
Oh yeah? Really? Nice.
Yeah, I go back and forth on Earthbound and Mother 3, so...
Yeah,
Mother
3 is...
I like all of them.
Yeah, I think they all have some really cool features, each one of them, even Mother 1. And I know a lot of people don't really like that one, but yeah, I think they all have really cool qualities to them. But so why do you both like the games that you like, Mother 3, and you go between Earthbound and Mother 3, so why is that?
I think Mother 3 manages to be as relevant and as impactful as Earthbound was, and I think it's really amazing that they were able to do that again and have it still be a proper sequel, and just something about that game's world and art assets. I don't know, it just really speaks to me.
Yeah, I like how the art looks too, and the writing is still on point even after Earthbound. There's still more to do. I think that's pretty amazing. Going off of that now, after the favorite game, what are some of your favorite characters, songs, locations, or moments? Anything that really sticks out to you in the Mother series?
I like how you can order food and have it delivered in Earthbound. I think that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it's such a fun feature.
When you first play as Pooh rather, that was that something about that whole part which is really interesting, and I remember being just so surprised that the game had stuff like that in it.
Yeah, it's such a change of pace when you do start playing as Pooh. Yeah,
it really makes the game feel like really large in scope.
There's something very global about Earthbound that it really feels like you're doing like a whole worldwide adventure.
Definitely, it's like a giant road trip. What aspects of the Mother series were the most inspiring to both of you?
I mean, is it shallow to say graphics?
No, that's completely fine. Yeah, I think
that the graphics are a huge appeal for me.
Yeah, the graphics and the setting, like the use of a more modern setting is really cool when mixed with an RPG. I really love that. I think also the fan base is interesting to me. I actually find the fan base inspiring in a way.
It's funny you say that, because the next question actually has to do with that. So if you want to talk about that more, now's your chance. This ties into one specific aspect of the community, but you can go off of it in whatever direction you like. Did you ever interact with the community back when it was on starmen.net, and what was your first impression of the community overall?
We were both lurkers on Starman. We read it, but we never posted. Yeah. I think we were too shy to do that because the community was so established when we found it. It was kind of daunting in a way.
Yeah.
My impressions were positive. But I think that I was really interested in how obsessive people got with artifacts of their childhood and how they organized their whole life around it.
Yeah.
And how it kind of becomes like a religion in a way. And it becomes like the primary driving factor for meaning in their life. And that was something that when, I was a kid and I looked at it, it just made sense to me. But then like there came a certain point where it seemed maybe a little unhealthy.
Yeah.
And I actually think that that's really what Y2K is kind of about. It's about that type of fan, someone who's stuck in the past for, pop culture artifacts from their youth.
Right.
Where they hold that up as the utmost meaning and they chase it and they filter everything that they want and think about through this one thing, and it becomes a sort of arrested development. Now, this is not to say that this is the entire Mother community, and that there isn't a healthy way to do that, but that was really interesting to me, and that definitely, I think, inspired the game's story.
Yeah, that's such an elegant way to put it, and people like that exist, I think, in almost every fandom, I think.
Oh, for sure.
In the Mother community, that I can definitely see that too, and I've seen it with a lot of like retro games enthusiasts. I've known a lot of people will be super loyal to this idea of something, but they don't actually continue on with it past what the game's exist as, like the ideas of those games continuing on to other indie games and things like that. A lot of people will be very purist towards those ideas of the original 3 games, but not actually look at anything outside of that.
I mean, and this is why I say it's kind of like a religion, because it becomes non-canonical. It doesn't fit with your idea of what you think the text means, and
right.
You can kind of become militant about it.
It's funny because I totally get where those people are coming from. I'm of two minds.
Yeah, I could see it being this kind of religious kind of thing because a lot of people will be super loyal towards it and will want to defend it, even like when the creators do something wrong or anything like that. That's not really so much in the Mother fandom, but I've seen it happen in a lot of other fandoms. Because
the text that Itoi writes is so profound in Earthbound and Mother 3, and in the original Mother to some extent, but it's a far more simple thing. I think a lot of people get profound direction in life from the games, and it does become their sort of driving narrative for how they view the world. And then they get really involved in the communities. And then when there's some friction against that worldview, they take it very personally. Yeah, definitely. I can see how that can happen in fandoms and in the Mother fandom too. For me to create any of the website and all the stuff that I've done, I definitely have some kind of weird loyalty to it that's really strong. I'm not super purist about the text or anything, but I'm somebody who really examines that kind of stuff, and I can see how it can get to a point where it can be this kind of religious worship. It's a little scary, but I can see how that ties into the message that Y2K has too, because although I haven't played the games, I've looked into a lot of how the game's written, and it is interesting to me, and that's why I really want to play it too. So let's talk about Y2K. What were your expectations of the game before finishing it, and how did the completed game differ from those expectations you had of it? I don't think there was really any expectations. It was more of a hope that it would be completed and that it would come out. Making a 3D RPG with a small team is extremely difficult, and absolutely, we had never done it before, so there definitely was, we never had any illusions of the game being impactful in one way or another, or it gaining critical acclaim, or even
you just
audience.
Wanted to finish it.
Yeah, we wanted to complete it, and we wanted to get it out on consoles, and we wanted to, just get this thing out of our heads and make it a reality. So that our expectation really was just that we would finish it, and thankfully that came to fruition. Yeah, I know how that is. I'm working on a game myself, and same thing. I just want to get it out there and get it out of my head, and just get it out there and have it be real, I guess. Absolutely. Totally. Yeah. Yeah, when it's stuck in your head all the time, you just can't help but think about it all the time, also.
Exactly. It's always running in the back of your mind.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel that deeply. So, going off of thinking about things in your head, really, did you have any favorite parts of the game that you didn't really think that much about, but players really enjoyed a lot more than you expected?
There's definitely like little one-off lines or little character interactions that just like came so naturally when writing them, like they no thought went into them, and then they ended up being extremely memeable or quotable. You know, I don't think there was never like a point where we're like, oh, this is going to be the thing people are going to latch onto. You know, we don't work like that. So it's kind of cool to see a fresh perspective on it when someone reacts to it, and I just think it's cool that like we were so close to it. There was no part of for it for us that we were like, oh, this is the best part or this is our favorite part. Like I don't think we engage with our work that way. So I think any opinions I have now are probably vicarious through the audience.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. So a lot of the audience's experiences are kind of have shaped your own now at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of highlight the most meaningful aspects of it. I mean, because to me, it all serves like a central thematic idea or a central thesis, and you know, it's called a postmodern RPG because it's a work of postmodernism, and postmodernism is about questioning grand narratives or meta narratives.
Right.
And the whole idea behind the game is we want the player to role play as someone who questions a grand narrative. So the game is all about serving this one narrative and giving the player a reason to question it. So seeing how players have done that and where they've gotten caught up on the grand narrative and where they haven't been able to question it has been really fun. But like outside of the sort of surprise component, I don't think I really have much to say about that.
Right. Okay. So moving on from that, were there any times through development or even now while you're working on the update that it's been difficult for you to get motivated to make things for the game or otherwise? And is there something you specifically do to get yourself motivated to work on something?
You know, we think about this a lot because we see a lot of people try and make things and they never come out. And we often wonder why we're able to finish things. And I really think it comes down to watching our father work. He was he's still alive, but he's not really a working artist anymore. But when we were younger, he did like mural painting and wood carving, and he would work on like displays for museums. And, you know, he would always be making things that required creative output and hitting deadlines. And I think growing up with somebody who had to treat their creativity like a job, we learned how to do that. So as soon as it became a responsibility, like we took money from a publisher and we quit our jobs to work on the game, then it becomes real and you have to just do it. And I think that if we hadn't seen our dad do it, we probably would have struggled with it a lot more. But I think it kind of comes naturally to us at this point. Right.
I'm sure at first that kind of thing was more difficult because you don't really, I feel like you wouldn't think about it as much as a job before that. But once you start having to abide by deadlines and the audience's own expectations too, I'm sure that can weigh heavy on your minds, right?
I think the financial obligations of having to see it through once you've taken money from a publisher is the primary driving force. Like getting caught up in what an audience might think or what a critic might think is the surefire way to never finish something, because you'll always come up with reasons to not take a step, because you'll always be questioning everything. And then you'll either end up stuck repeating tropes, or playing to what you know audiences like. And that's another type of death sentence in a way.
It's true, yeah. I've always said that like learning how to complete a project is one of the most important skills someone can learn as an artist.
You can't wait for creativity to strike if you're doing it for a living.
Yeah, like sometimes inspiration is your worst enemy and you don't want to rely on it.
Because it's addicting in a way. Because then you might go, oh, I don't need to work because I'm not inspired today. The environment has to be just right. And it's like, well, it doesn't really work.
Yeah, you have to get it done at some point.
Yeah.
If you want to get it done at all, that is. Moving on from that, I've kind of worked my way through most of the questions already, thankfully. I'm surprised. But going back to Mother and how it relates to Y2K, did you deliberately decide to include any particular Mother tropes in the games, or did it just happen naturally, I guess?
I don't think deliberate.
If it happened, it was natural.
Right, yeah.
I think there's probably a little bit of every RPG we've ever played.
That makes sense.
somewhere
Yeah.
in the game.
Yeah, I was just playing through Wild Arms 1 again, and I actually think that in a lot of ways, that's the game it's most like is Wild Arms 1.
Wild Arms.
Yeah, it was a PS1 RPG by Mediavision. I think it came out around the same time as Final Fantasy VII. It's a really interesting game that's about cowboys and like the Wild West, but like a very Japanese take on it. But like the actual like dungeon design and like the way that the game does puzzles had a big influence on everything we've made, actually.
Wow. I have to check that game out. I haven't really heard of it, I don't think.
It's really cool.
Sounds cool.
Has great music.
It's an RPG?
Yeah, it's an RPG on PS1, and it's on. You can play it on PS5 or PS4.
Interesting. Okay, I'm definitely taking a look at that later. I guess moving on to one of the final questions. Do you have any plans for future game projects after Y2K that you can talk about? If so, do you think that Mother influence will continue into those next games? I'm sure since you were talking about Y2K having a kind of amalgam of all the RPGs you've played, I mean, that's just kind of natural for game design, but do you think that Mother influence will continue into future projects, and do you have anything you can talk about at the time? We
are making another game. We have already started development on it. We actually put it on pause to make the update to Y2K. We're making an Unreal 5 game.
Oh, wow.
While I think it's not explicitly Mother inspired, I think when a video game has a profound impact on you, you can't help but carry elements of it into things.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, like, even like our first game, Two Brothers, has a lot of, I think, Mother influence, even though it's, aesthetically it has more in line with Secret of Mana or like Link's Awakening.
Right.
But I think like the heart and the atmospheres and stuff, we can't help but be inspired by it.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Definitely. I was actually going to ask one question about Two Brothers too. I know I had heard a while ago that Two Brothers was going to have some kind of remake or remaster. Is that still being worked on?
It's not currently being worked on. We have plans to return to it and then maybe release it as like a free game eventually. So right now we're just trying to make the Y2K update as good as it can be. And
absolutely, yeah.
But, we want people to play it. I think the game has a lot of heart, and it's kind of developed an interesting following within the Y2K community. A lot of people who have managed to download it and play through it. And, I think that there's a lot of really good ideas in that game. So I think doing another version of it eventually is something that's on the roadmap. Because Y2K had such a troubled launch, people who were going to help us with the remake of Two Brothers didn't want to be associated with us anymore. So we kind of lost all our help on it. So our plans that we had are kind of foobarred. But
I'm sorry to hear that.
It kind of is what it is. We kind of just got to roll with the punches.
That's right.
But hopefully in the future, we'll be able to find a way to put it out again.
I definitely want to play it. I've seen a lot of videos about it, like footage of the game, and it seems really interesting. I really want to give it a try. That's all the questions that I have, but is there anything else you want to talk about when it comes to Y2K 1.5 or any other projects you want to mention or anything else?
I would say anyone who was on the fence about the first version of Y2K, I think that we've managed to address a lot of the reasons that you may have been on the fence, largely the presentation and combat. And I think that it's going to be worth a second look. So if you had a subtle interest in it before, now would be the time to check it out when the update comes out later this year.
Awesome. I can't wait. I hope development goes smoothly for the rest of it too. Thanks for being here, and thank you everybody for listening.
Thank you for talking to us and making us feel like we're somehow part of the Mother community. We felt kind of like outsiders for a very long time, so I think talking to someone who's kind of at the center of the fandom is pretty cool.
I think anybody who is impacted by Mother is a part of the community. You're always welcome to be on anything we're a part of. Thank you for being here.